Hello and welcome to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Discovery podcast. I'm Ashley Thomas. I'm in the captain's chair today. You might also know me as the Nerdy Blogger. Joining me today as my number one for our discussion of Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 8, Labyrinths, is my number one, Craig McKenzie. How you doing, Craig?
Hello. Mike or Ian would have been just as frustrating.
I really liked that line. That made me laugh.
Potential mild spoilers for the episode.
Well, if you haven't figured it out already, folks, as I said, we are talking Season 5, Episode 8 of Star Trek Discovery, Labyrinths. So this one is interesting. So Craig, it's been a minute since you and I have gotten to podcast together about Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Tell me, how are you feeling overall about the season?
So for the most part, I was feeling a bit disappointed by a lot of what we were getting early on. I think it was falling into the usual trap Discovery has of let's kill time until we can actually tell our story. So it's, we're on the way to the story rather than actually telling the story. But then we had Whistle Speak, which I thought was actually a Star Trek episode. And it's strangely rare in the modern era of Star Trek to just have one where they go to a planet and meet an alien race and have to figure out how to do something in regards to that. And then it was a good Prime Directive story as well. And I was just thinking, more of this, please. Why aren't Strange New Worlds doing stories like this more often? So that was a nice wake up for me, a nice pick me up. And then previous episode 7, I thought was a really interesting, tense political situation that weaved Discovery's emotionally driven storytelling quite neatly into it, actually, without it seeming like it was crowbarred in. It felt like a natural part of it. So it's like, yeah, where has this level of sophistication been up until this point as well? And so, yeah, it's kind of winning me back towards the end of the season, but I just wish we hadn't wasted so much time early on with stuff that we just didn't need to have. Did we need to go aboard the ISS Enterprise? No, we didn't.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the season pretty well overall. I think Whistle Speak has definitely been my favorite episode of the season, but episode 7 I thought was really, really solid, Eriga. And I'm really enjoying what we're doing with Labyrinths here today, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. So for those who may not have watched, here's a quick summary, courtesy of the fine folks at Paramount Plus. When Captain Burnham is trapped within a mindscape designed to test her worthiness to retrieve the progenitor's powerful technology, Book, Rayner, and the crew of the USS Discovery must hold off the Breen long enough for her to escape. So, Craig, tell me some of your overall thoughts on Labyrinth before we dive in.
I liked it in the main. I actually thought it took a bit too long to get to the point of the test, which in itself was kind of the point, I suppose, the idea of Burnham second-guessing herself or putting barriers in her way to solving the test. But I didn't feel like much of what we got up until that realization was all that interesting to watch. I did find the Breen ticking clock in the background much more engaging, though. I liked that, we've got to get through this very quickly so that the Breen don't kill us all. I thought that worked really well. And when we finally got into the meat of what Burnham's test actually was, I found myself more engaged.
For me, first, I really like that we have to go to the space library to solve this problem. To quote Hermione Granger, when in doubt, go to the library.
There's 1,000 people on it, but we only saw one.
Hey, she was really cool. I looked up the actress. That's, I hope I say her name correctly, Elena Juakko. She is a Canadian pop star, apparently. She was on Canadian Idol in its second season, I think. Also does some acting as well as the space librarian Hyrel. So I thought she was very charming. I happen to be friends with a lot of librarians, and they're all really funny and charming people. So maybe that's just a trait of librarians. I don't know.
Couldn't tell what species she was. I thought she was Klingon at first, but she's not.
Yeah, I'm unclear about her species, and frankly, didn't really occur to me. I was just like, oh, you're adorable. Who are you?
Where are the Klingons in the 32nd century? We still don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we saw a few at Federation HQ in season 3.
They certainly haven't pointed out what the current status of the Klingon Empire, such as it is.
Right. So, but anyway, I first of all, I just really like that we have to go to the space library to find this clue. I think that's wonderful. And, go libraries, So I enjoyed that. I really love not just the setting of the library. I think the set looks really cool. It's kind of it's the kind of library I would want to hang out in. I like the color scheme. I like, that dark wood. I love like the red carpeting, like all of that just is really appealing to me.
Did it look like a redressed Fed HQ to you? It seemed like it had that similar sort of layout, the multi-layered thing.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. I could maybe see that. Yeah, with that kind of the multi-layered. Yeah, those big overhead shots that we get a lot in the Fed HQ.
It felt like the same space to me.
And it probably was. Yeah. So, just in actuality, it probably was.
Most likely.
Yeah, but what I really love about this setting is that even in the 32nd century, we have not done away with print media. We have not done away with physical media. And that just forever justifies my acquisition of more and more physical media of all kinds.
Buy physical media because the streamers hate you and want to remove it from your ability to access.
Yep. So I really enjoy all of that. But also, I love the idea that it's a labyrinth. Historically speaking, labyrinths, and I think it ties really well into, 1, the theme of the episode, 2, what we're doing overall this season. Labyrinths, historically speaking, have always been used for prayer and personal reflection. And not just a David Bowie movie. But have you ever walked a labyrinth, Craig?
I have not.
Okay, so the school I went to for undergrad had a small labyrinth on campus, and I went and walked it. I've walked it a couple of times, and it's nothing quite like this where, you've got walls all around you, you can't see where you're going. It's like a brick path that's, inlaid into the ground into a pattern, like a circular type pattern, and you walk through it, and it's, it was kind of like a nice, peaceful way for me to walk, clear my head, pray, think, self-reflect. And these are all the functions of a labyrinth. It makes you focus on walking this one path that's not intuitive. It's not just in a straight circle or in a spiral or whatever. It's winding and snakes and does all of this in a really intricate pattern. So you have to kind of focus on what you're doing. You can't just kind of wander aimlessly. So I really like this idea of using a labyrinth in an episode that is ultimately about self-reflection and knowing yourself and understanding yourself. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way because I never really understood the definition of labyrinth. It's just something that shows up in fantasy stuff every now and again. But the interesting thing is, it does focus on Burnham's self-reflection thing, but we seem to have dropped Culber's spiritual reflection over the past couple of episodes, and this could have been an ideal place to explore that in some way. Granted, he was busy monitoring life signs, but
trying to make sure she doesn't die.
Yeah, but it seems like a natural thematic connection.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're going to pick that up again. I have to wonder how much is lost in the whole, we were going to have more seasons and oh snap, now we're not. Yeah. So, we'll and again, we've not seen the last 2 episodes, so we'll see how things ultimately conclude with that. But I like this idea of going into your mind palace, into a mindscape of not necessarily your own making, but like, well, I guess it is kind of your own making, because like, she's like, why did I choose this? And why are you, why are you the person that is guiding me in this, mind book?
Yeah. It is a bit of a trope in modern television, though. For example, The Flash. Here's my opportunity to give it another kicking. They would have a mind palace every other week. It felt like later on. I guess it's a cheap way to do things, isn't it? You just have people run around on existing sets and ask questions about themselves. But there are other shows that do it too. So it does feel like it's a little bit played out. And I know that 90s era, Berman era Star Trek would do mind palaces now and again. The one that springs immediately to mind is the one where Bashir gets stuck inside his mind in Deep Space Nine, and every member of the crew take on aspects of his personality. That was a good one.
Yeah. Coda from Voyager, actually, just watched that one for the first time. Not me for the first time. Mr. Nerdy Blogger is watching Voyager for the first time, so last night was his introduction to Coda, which he really enjoyed. So, But yeah, and to be fair, like, talking about reusing sets, I mean, original series kind of used whatever was on the lot. We're gonna have a Western episode today because the Bonanza set is free. Or what's in the prop room, what can we use? And I actually really enjoy that kind of creativity, and now we're kind of spoiled. We have the AR wall, so we can literally be anywhere. So
Well, the AR wall, I'm starting to get a bit sick of it because it does look very fake if they don't do it right.
For me, I liked the idea of using this labyrinth kind of setting as the Mind Palace as well, because it all ties into that theme of self-reflection.
Yeah.
So,
and they justify it by Burnham is laser focused on the mission, so she thinks the library area is the mission, so conjures up an imagery of that, as opposed to, say, Discovery, which it could have also been.
You were talking earlier that you found it a little slow for her to get to the point on there. I didn't. I think that's how our minds work sometimes. Like, when we're trying to solve a problem, Burnham is literally all up in her head about this.
Yeah.
I can definitely get all up in my head about, a problem I'm trying to solve or thinking about how I'm trying to do things. I found that actually very realistic and relatable, that, those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. Well, obviously we must go to the history section. Or we must go to this. Oh, I'm going to use the sand to trace my steps and all of this other things. She's literally mind mapping. So many mind metaphors that are working really well for me in this episode. So for me, that worked. So tell me a little more about why it didn't work for you.
I think it was more a pacing issue because early on, she's not really doing much of anything. It spends a lot of time going in the wrong direction until she realizes she goes in the wrong direction. And then all the big reveals happen so quickly. I would have liked more incremental delivery of her knowing herself, and maybe knowing an aspect of herself pushes her on to the next stage of trying to get out of this, and she slowly builds to the point where she gets it and gets out. And she still needs to have that outburst at the end because that was quite powerful. But I think there could have been a more organic way of, I've just been doing the wrong thing this whole time. I think it could have just been little teases of the right thing. She wasn't quite doing the right thing, but she was doing enough to kind of progress to the next level in a way.
Yeah, I could see that. But like I said, it didn't bother me as much, so I was just enjoying the ride, enjoying her train of thought. I'd love to talk a little bit about when we get to her moment of self-reflection, of trying to figure out the ultimate goal of this test. I felt like a lot of the things that they put in Michael's dialogue were things that Sonequa has actually faced in her casting as Michael Burnham.
I had that thought too.
Yeah, in particular, am I worthy to wear the uniform? All of this because so many people, when Discovery was announced and that the main character was a Black woman, sadly, we learned that not everybody in the Star Trek fandom actually understands Star Trek. A lot of people were very cranky about that, and go to counseling, go educate yourself, and hush. Is all I have to say about that. But I thought that, to me, it felt very not only self-reflective about Burnham, who is second guessing herself after she got in so much trouble at the start of the series, and is, lucky to be where she is. I felt like that too was some of Soneqa's self-reflection as well. So what did you think about her self-reflection?
I think it goes a bit further than that as well on the meta level, as in there's acknowledgement there that in a lot of ways the writers have overcompensated for that. Because we've talked on a bunch of Discovery discussions about how Michael Burnham is often written to be flawless in the way that she approaches situations. She always has the right answer. She never seems to go down the wrong path in any way. It's always straight to the solution. And I think there was commentary on that in season 2 a bit. And I think there's valid criticisms that people have had about the fact that does she need to be Spock's sister and all this kind of stuff, which kind of gets buried under the more toxic stuff. Because I think there are valid conversations you can have about should they have done that, or should they have just tried to make Discovery completely its own thing. I mean, it's not a discussion we're going to have on this particular episode, maybe for another time, but I think they were acknowledging the whole hyper-competence side of it, and the idea that she basically admits that she doesn't like having to have all the answers immediately or be judged unrealistically, and she never gets to be a person, really. I think that's something that she's finding a bit stressful at this point in her life and career. She constantly tries to be the best at everything, and it's really rubbing her up the wrong way at this point. And it sort of comes to a head here, and she can admit it to artificial intelligence that looks like her ex-boyfriend. That's, I guess if you're going to admit it to someone, who can a captain talk to, really? Because she did have Book before, but that ended soon. Saru's not around for some reason, so she has very few people she can confide in. So I like the idea of this. I've been feeling all this stuff, but I haven't been able to express it before. And like I say, the meta side of, we're acknowledging that there's been some flaws in the writing up until this point as well.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting and valid way to look at that. Part of the reason I'm really drawn to Discovery is that I find Michael's drive really relatable, of not wanting to mess up, to constantly feel like you have to prove yourself, or you have to find the right answer. You have to have the right answer all the time and always do the right thing. I think those feelings are relatable to a lot of people, but I, in particular, feel a lot of that for a lot of varying reasons. And I think part of it is because I grew up in an area where women were expected to be a certain way, and I said no. And so I've always felt like I had to constantly prove myself, like I have to work harder at, most of my interests make me the only woman in the room. And so I've always felt like I have to prove myself, like, oh yes, I deserve to be here too. And whereas, guys can walk in and just be there and, that's fine. But I have to prove that I should be where I am because I've earned it. I'm just as into this fandom as you, or I work just as hard at guitar or drums or bass or whatever as you, and I'm good too. And so I found her speech very compelling because I felt like it was very relatable to me as well.
Yeah, and she grew up in a society of perfectionists as well. She was raised Vulcan, so that very much needing to feel like she belongs or measure up will be very common for her because of being raised among Vulcans who are, let's face it, a bit dicks most of the time. A lot.
Yeah. I mean, everybody loves the Vulcans, but, what does Spock say in Charades in season 2 of Strange New Worlds? Vulcans are the worst. They're such jerks sometimes.
Yeah, and you see plenty of examples of Sarek being very harsh, as in the original series, there was the stuff about him and Spock didn't speak for years because that relationship completely broke apart, and they sort of mended it by the time you get to the movies, and by the time you get to Next Generation, it's fallen apart again. So it's this constant back and forth between Spock and Sarek, and you can see that reflected in just the way Vulcans behave sometimes. I think the most emotionally healthy Vulcan would be Tuvok, to be honest, because he seemed to be all right with his place in society and his family and stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good point, too, about her Vulcan upbringing. I hadn't thought about that, but...
It hasn't been mentioned in years, so it's not surprising.
Well, and I think Sonequa does a really good job of embodying both of those, both her human and Vulcan upbringing in her physical performance. I think the best example we see of that is season 3, episode 1, when she lands in the future, and she, she's joyful, she's excited, and then immediately does that composure and tries to contact Discovery, like, all right, got to get all business, but, you get to see that joy and excitement. Like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I'm alive. Like, oh my gosh. And then she has to reel it back in to be the captain again. She's
cast off a lot of the Vulcan rigidity, though, as well. Like, she used to be far more reserved way back in seasons 1 and 2, but now she's much more confident within herself, I suppose, as in she's embracing her emotional human side a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think she's made peace with that in her performance as well. So, what do you think of Book in this episode? Book playing not just himself, but also Mind Palace Book.
I call him Guidebook in my review. So.
I'm very upset I did not think about that.
Well, you can have that one as well.
I'll be sure to quote you on that one.
Make it a trend. # Guidebook.
Guidebook.
Yeah. I think.
Tell me more your thoughts on Guidebook.
Well, the AI was just an annoying. It was almost like Clippy the paperclip, wasn't it? I will answer your question exactly, and like, why didn't you tell me about this? You didn't ask. So it's in a way, Burnham has to learn how to work with the program as well as solve the test. How does this program help you solve the test? And a lot of it's the kind of waxing philosophical stuff, as in some of these things might be true, but they're not the test, and so on and so on. I think I don't know, I found it fairly typical of these things. And then Real Book, I really liked the scene where he saw that piece of his home world, and it suggested that he takes it with him. I wonder what he'll do with that, if anything. I thought he was going to say, no, you keep it, because it would be good to have a piece of my home remembered forever. But maybe that will come up again. Maybe he'll plant a tree somewhere or whatever.
That was my thought, is like, can he, because, he that was like a big thing last season. He was going to go do I forget the name of the ritual, but must be connected with Quajon, with the Earth, with this particular tree. And I'm wondering, like, can he replant that tree somewhere?
Yeah.
That was my thought.
Plus, we're about to encounter creation technology, so what could happen there? We don't know.
Ooh.
But yeah.
Ooh. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think they could have done more with the guidebook side of it to make it more interesting, because it just seemed to be more of a hindrance than a help in a lot of ways. And I think, again, it was better towards the end of the episode when it was prompting Burnham to get to the answer, figure out what the solution was. But I found myself wondering, what would this be like if other characters went through this test? Because you could put, obviously it was always going to be Burnham to prove her worthiness to wield this technology, but you have to imagine, what if the Breen got there first? What would that be like? Or, what if Culber went in and so on?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What would Maul be like in this test?
Yeah, that would have been interesting too.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I really enjoyed about this was watching David just kind of really change his physical performance
and his accent.
Like just change it up just a little bit. Like he's a little more.
I think refined is maybe the best word.
Yeah. He's got a little more whimsy to him in this, in a stoic sort of way. But there's still some playfulness with him.
Yeah.
And I really liked that. I thought that was enjoyable to watch. Also, it was fun to watch him wear the crazy library uniform. I pointy shoulders. Everybody will be wearing those in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure he loved performing that.
Oh yeah. You can tell when an actor's having a good time. Yeah. He's definitely having fun with that. Yeah, let's talk about this B plot going with the Breen. I guess it's not totally a B plot, but it's secondary to Michael solving the Mind Palace. So we've got the Breen following them. They're trying to get through, and we've got Reese on taking the con and trying to figure out, okay, well, how can we avoid them? How can we help Michael and Rayner and the book in there? So,
yeah, I've been saying since Rayner came aboard that we really need him in command of Discovery on a mission that isn't just wait for Burnham to get back, which is all that he's done so far. And then he's on the station or in the library, not really doing that much for the most part until he has to fight some Breen. So this would have been a perfect opportunity for him to be on the bridge, managing a situation when Burnham's not there, actually doing something, actually figuring something out. It's good to see Reese shine, but also we barely know that guy. So it's, and who are all these bridge crew that have been here this season? Where's Detmer and Owo and all them? Where are they?
Yeah, I mean, we know that Detmer and Owo flew the ISS Enterprise.
Yeah, but how long did that take? Are they still doing it? Is it a several months journey? Who knows?
I don't know. I have to wonder if some of these our regular bridge crew were all like, hey, I'm not getting enough screen time on Discovery. I'm going to pick up some other jobs. And so they're off doing those other jobs thinking, oh, we've got another season. I'll come back. And then we don't. Yeah. And so we don't get proper closure for these characters. So I'm a little disappointed in that. But again, I know the reality is this was not plan A. Yeah. So I'm trying to take it in stride. Yeah. So, but I thought Reese did a really good job.
Oh, yeah.
With this, you know, I mean, what we know of Reese is he seems to be a pretty cool, smart guy, and it was cool to finally get him in action like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he and Rayner could have been a decent double act, though, if they were both on the bridge, puzzling out the problem and how to deal with it. And then you had, obviously, the technobabble. The Breen are doing something, we need to stop them doing it, and you had all that, which was kind of fun. Reno there again to press some buttons and be snarky like she always is.
I love that Reno has had all of these past careers of intrigue and interest in up and including rare book dealer.
That's a little bit contrived though, isn't it? And it just so happens the foremost expert on this exact thing we need for the next clue is a few decks away.
Hey, you know, she's kind of the Pelia character here, who has had who's lived many previous lives, just, you know, being very, very no nonsense, very practical about everything. So.
Well, part of me thought that they might have brought Pelia in for a cameo, and she has that book.
I had that thought too.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe she is actually just finally dead after all that time.
After literal thousands of years.
Maybe that's the end of her lifespan. I don't know. Yeah. The Breen, I think, as a threat, they're formidable because of the resources they have. But the Primarch, he's very much a cartoon villain. He strops about like a child.
My thought is some of that is the Breen seem more cartoonish because they all look the same.
Yeah,
like I mean, they're like stormtroopers. They don't really have a whole lot of personality, except for Locke, and it's because we get to see his face. So. Last episode with the marriage reveal, that was pretty fun and exciting and unexpected. So I've really enjoyed watching Maul like play this to her advantage.
Yeah, it's good to see her grasp onto the possibility of freedom, and obviously her actions are grief induced at this point, so. She isn't thinking as rationally as she might otherwise be, but she will always play the odds in order to escape something. So it's the choice of, I'll go with the Breen and possibly get out of this, or I'm stuck in a Federation brig for the rest of my life. Which one do I want? And it's the go with the Breen thing. And then she manages to maneuver the situation in her favor again in this episode. Although that's largely down to the Primarch being, like I said, a stroppy child. And I remember like the Breen characters we had on Deep Space Nine. They weren't characters as such, but you got more of a sense that they were professional and in control of a situation than you do with this guy. This guy's, we've got all these warring Breen factions. It just so happens that the one we have to deal with is this childish moron. And it's the idea of, Breen are very committed to their cultural heritage, but not you. You're willing to just blow this thing up because of out of spite or something. And, you made a honorable promise to burn them in order to not destroy the archive that you immediately break after you think you've killed her and stuff. So I think he's just put in there to do objectionable things in order to keep the tension going. But everything he did, I just felt was just too childish. And I don't understand how he reached the position he did, other than royalty, I suppose. But I didn't really buy into everyone, the crew his crew all betraying him towards the end, because they didn't do enough grounding to explain that there was that level of unrest on his ship.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I have to wonder too, with all of this political power at stake. Like, I don't think we've seen the Breen in a power struggle previously, if I remember correctly. If I remember my Breen. No,
they were always kind of mysterious, and then they got brought into Deep Space Nine, and it's, oh god, it's the Breen. We've heard of them, we've seen them a couple of times, but turns out they're a major player here. They've got resources galore, and they can tear apart our ships and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of the same here, although it doesn't feel quite as organic, because I think one of the problems with the 32nd century is they just tell us that things are major powers slightly before they become important, rather than sort of seeding it. That's why I thought the Emerald Chain were just a scrappy group of rogues instead of, they're a political power of some kind. That's unexpected. And then it's, the Breen are out there, and then suddenly they're hugely important.
I think what you've said is fair. It didn't bother me, so I didn't think about it until you mentioning it just now, which is why you make a great number one, Craig.
I think
always making me think.
They should have probably had the Breen being a contender from early in the season. They should have been racing to the next clue ahead of the Breen as well as Maul and Locke, I think. It should have been more clear that they were being chased by the Breen from early on.
Right. Maybe seeded that a little earlier. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So we've got Maul now kind of taking the reins of the Breen.
By proxy.
That was, by proxy. So that was kind of unexpected. At least I didn't really see that coming. I was listening to our previous episode, and you accurately predicted that one of them was going to die. And I got really mad at you when you said, I was like, no, I like them. They're exciting and fun. And, they're kids who are in trouble. They've made big mistakes, like, on steroids, and this is bad. I don't want them to die. I want them to get fixed. And now one of them is dead. So, but how dead is he? Is he only mostly dead?
Well, she's convinced that they're going to get him back, and that's what's driving her for the most part, the possibility of that happening. So either she'll be happy when it happens, or she'll be really disappointed that it can't happen. Or they might have some existential discussion about, well, we can reanimate the body, but what comes back will not be you. And that can bring in the whole soul angle. The soul is not there. We can reanimate this body, but it'll be a zombie that comes back effectively. It won't be the person that you lost.
It's a Pet Cemetery situation, right?
Yeah. And I like the funeral thing at the beginning. The idea that they did the funeral procession and put him in his helmet, which is kind of disrespectful to who Locke was, because he rejected that whole helmet plus other face, whatever the other face thing is all about. We still don't know.
Yeah, I was a little surprised about that. I guess maybe that's more Breen culture to, you always wear your mask or whatever, but yeah. I obviously that's not who Locke chose to be. So yes, I agree. It's disrespectful to who he was as a person.
Yeah. Oh. But it's clear that his uncle doesn't respect who he was anyway. It's all about what he can get out of retrieving him.
Yeah, absolutely. For him, it's all power grab.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then he had power grabbed from him. So sucks to be him, I guess.
Well, he had it coming.
That's what you get for being a childish moron.
Yep. There you go. All right. Very cool. Well, what other thoughts do you have on this episode, Craig?
So we finally have the location of the tech, which reminds me a bit of last season, where we have 2 episodes to tell the story. And hopefully they'll manage to use those 2 episodes effectively to tell that story. I'm just glad we're finally there, because the whole Clue thing was getting a bit old.
Yeah, I mean, it at least to me felt a lot more cohesive than, say, episodes of The Mandalorian, where it was basically Mando goes on side quests all season. And to me, like, I've enjoyed this journey that we've been on this season. I think it's flowed nicely. Could it have been a little speedier? Maybe. But I've not been bothered enough by it to be frustrated with how the storytelling has gone overall. So I think, I mean, and this is very much makes me think a lot about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which is something that Indiana Jones came up a lot in these roundtable interviews I got to do with Michelle Paradise and Alex Kurtzman and some of the other cast of Discovery. You know, the penitent man shall pass. You know, you've got to do all of these different steps in order to show, yes, you are worthy to take on the responsibility of this technology.
Yeah, I think if the earlier adventures had been stronger, then it would have stood out less that it was this kind of fetch quest thing. And as much as I liked this whistle speak, that I've thought that the clues were kind of weak. It's just you just need to know what these numbers are, and that'll tell you where the next clue is. It should be fairly easy for anybody to figure out. I don't think they've been complicated enough so that only certain people will be able to figure them out. Because I feel like Maul is smart enough that she got there first. She could probably figure these things out. So it doesn't seem to be about worthiness. And like I say, I would have liked to see how Maul had done this test. So maybe there's another version of this episode where Burnham and Maul are taking the test at the same time or something like that. And they have to figure it out themselves. They could be in a kind of split screen situation where they're, you know, in their own mindscapes.
Yeah, but it sounds like it would have been fatal for one and not the other, so we can't have that yet.
I know, I feel like Maul could have conjured up some emotional honesty and got through it. Who knows? We'll never know.
Maybe. I think she's getting there. I think she's softening up a little bit. She was at least willing to talk with Book when they were having the showdown in the hallway.
Yeah, and there's a mysterious final puzzle thing that Guidebook tells Burnham about. So, but they don't tell us what that is. So there's another tease there.
There was something that I noticed, and I didn't get a clear enough look at the statue itself, but when Burnham breaks the crystal, I see her grab the piece, and then I see something else on the floor, and I don't know if that was part of the crystal statue or what. Did you notice something else get left in the floor in the library?
No, I wasn't paying enough attention to that, though, because it was all happening so quickly, and I was more concerned with, they need to do this before the Breen show up.
Right. I'm going to have to go back and look at that to see if that was something that we see earlier, or if that was something that was inside that, oh snap, got left behind. What are we going to do now? Yeah. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Based on how things resolved by the end of the episode, I think that was maybe just me noticing some weird extraneous detail and zeroing in on it, kind of like, you know, a Dungeons and Dragons game where you're like, I have to go talk to this rat, and it has nothing to do with what you're supposed to do.
I like how they increased the tension a bit by, Discovery's vanished, it only got most of the way there. Discovery's damaged even. It only got most of the way there, and we don't have warp drive even, so we need to repair, and we have about 6 hours and until the Breen get to the destination, so it's a bit of a race. I like that rather than we arrived here like 6 hours before they did, and somehow we haven't figured everything out by the time they appear. So I think there'll be a bit more, hopefully anyway, a bit more urgency in the next episode as they have to scramble to get there first, and they'll be barely there first. Yeah,
it's going to be a interesting challenge to see how they pull this one out of the bin. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. One other note I had is the nucleonic beam that puts Burnham into her mind palace is the same technology that the probe in the Inner Light used on Picard.
Ooh, okay. That was not something that registered with me, so good job. It's been a minute since I've watched The Inner Light.
When I was watching this, it was like Burnham lying on the floor. It reminded me of Picard doing the same thing on the bridge in The Inner Light.
Yeah.
So I looked it up to make sure, to see if it was the same thing, and it is.
Great catch. Inner Light's a great episode. I should go watch that again.
Yeah, Picard was in there a lot less time than Burnham was, but he lived a lot longer than she did.
Yeah. You know, it was basically, you know, Narnian time mechanics applied there. Yeah.
Or maybe it was about the same amount of time. I'm not sure.
I don't know. It was one episode's time.
Yeah.
Fun. Any other thoughts on this episode?
No, I've got most
Labyrinths?
of it, I think.
Okay.
Most of my thoughts.
Cool. How do you hope the season will wrap? Do you have any predictions?
What I hope is that there's some revelation or some self-revelation that they all have where it's this technology's too dangerous and we'll never be ready for it, so they destroy it. A bit like when they discovered the Iconian Gateway in Next Generation. It was, we have to blow this up because it's too much for anyone to handle. So I'm hoping we'll get there. I think there'll be some existential stuff that gets discussed when they ponder the ramifications of what they've discovered, which, I don't know, maybe the Breen being there, breathing down their necks will get in the way of that, though. Maybe we are heading for a sort of fast-paced action-driven finale. Of course, Discovery is outgunned at this point, but yeah, I'm hoping to get something thoughtful and philosophical and all that. Basically what we've been promised all season in terms of this is a big deal. This is going to warp all of our minds. And, you know, I really need them to do something really interesting with this technology that we haven't seen before, because they've set it up as this magical, God-given power kind of thing, or godly power. So
right.
They really need to pull out all the stops to show us that and make us buy that.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that, you know, like you said, we do get a discussion about what does it mean to wield this kind of power? Can anyone wield this power with integrity in a way that is not harmful or self-seeking? I do hope that we find a way to unkill Locke, because I like him. I think Elias Tufexis is great. He's also a great follow on Twitter. If you are still on there, anybody listening, give him a follow because he's a lot of fun. He's been tweeting a lot of really cool behind the scenes things about Discovery, so that's been interesting to read about. Apparently, they wrote a lot of Breen songs and made a lot of Breen puns on the Discovery set, which I'm very pro pun. So let's do that.
Did you hear about why Doug Jones isn't around? He said he was off promoting Hocus Pocus 2 at the time, so wasn't in much of the season.
No, I haven't heard anything about that, which is unfortunate because, I mean, who doesn't love Doug Jones?
Yeah. I'm guessing he'll be back
man.
in at least one of the next 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll see him again. Also, quick shout, because neither of us were on the discussion for episode 7, but Tara Rosling as Tarina is a complete and utter badass in episode 7. And I really enjoyed seeing her like, oh, well, we're just going to do this. And I'm like, get it. She was great. So shout out to the future Mrs. Saru. So anyway, I hope we get to see more of both of them by this season's end. I hope we get a wedding. Let's have a wedding. We don't get too many.
You're asking for a lot to be crammed into 2 hours of television here.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that the last episode is like, you know, we always get these double finales and double premieres. So let's have a double finale, like a double episode finale, like, you know, in terms of time run. I want an hour and a half.
Yeah, a 90-minute finale would be a nice callback. I don't think we're going to get that, though. I think it's just going to be... Yeah. I think it'll be the next 2 episodes or 1 episode, effectively.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have lots of hopes and dreams that may only be fulfilled by fan fiction, so
Well, the thing is, it's almost as if they can't wield the tech as well. They can't let the tech change everything because we have the Starfleet Academy show coming up, and I don't think they could radically alter the status quo of the universe in a major way. But it's like, yeah, we have the power to create life now anywhere we want.
Yeah. Well, we all saw how well that worked out with the Genesis device. So, I mean, but obviously this is a little different because it's progenitors tech. So, the people who gave us all life, according to Star Trek. So, might be a little better functioning than a Genesis device, but
maybe
even so.
Yeah. Wonder if we'll get a Salome Jens cameo as well.
I wondered that as well.
She's still alive, I think.
Yeah, she's still kicking, so maybe we can put her in the progenitor makeup, which is not entirely dissimilar to the changeling makeup.
Well, there's the long-held fan theory that the progenitors became the changelings eventually. And that's the lines they evolved along, or they altered their genetic makeup to be changelings or something. There's a bunch of theories surrounding all that.
Right.
I don't like it because I hate it when they make the universe small like that. I prefer if they're just two different alien species. Yeah,
no, I don't totally buy that either. I think it's mostly driven by the fact that Salome Jens plays both.
Yeah,
so
and she looks kind of like a changeling in that makeup as well.
Yeah, that's fair. But changelings weren't even a thing at that point in Discovery, or not Discovery, sorry, DS9, were they?
In TNG, well, season 6, so yeah, Odo would have been.
Yeah, I mean, we at least had Odo, but we hadn't met any of the other changelings. So.
Plus, the changelings don't actually look like that. It's just the way Odo looks, and then for TV simplicity, they made all the other changelings look like that so that viewers wouldn't be confused. That's the reason that all changelings look like Odo.
Yeah, except for Amanda Plummer in Picard. So.
Yeah, I mean, the DS9 era changelings all look like that because of.
Right.
Because otherwise people might be confused.
Sure. Gotta dumb it down for folks. You would think you wouldn't have to dumb things down for a Star Trek audience, but,
I think there's sort of an acknowledgement of we do have to play to the lowest common denominator to some degree in order to, in order to make things easier enough to follow. I mean, I'd have been happy if someone had walked on screen looking whatever way and said, "I'm a changeling." I'd be like, "Yeah, cool."
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, we do see that one changeling in the I forget the name of the episode in season 4 of Discovery that turns into like a tribble and rolls away.
Yeah, that one had Odo face as well.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. But, well, anyway, any other thoughts on Labyrinths or Star Trek Discovery before we wrap?
Nope. I got through all my notes, so we're all good there.
Yeah. All right. I think I've covered everything I've made note of as well. I enjoyed the episode quite a bit, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how things wrap up this season.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the progenitor tech, because they've set up something really big, and I'm wondering if they can deliver on it.
Yeah, and so I'm hesitant to make too many speculations about what that might look like. I'm just going to enjoy what I get. So,
well, I'm just going to take it as it comes, like I always do.
Yeah. Use some of that Scottish stoicism there. All right. Well, Craig, why don't you tell the folks at home where they can connect with you?
Sure. You can mostly find me on Neil Before Blog. That's neilbeforeblog.co.uk. Facebook, Twitter /X, and Blue Sky. Type it in there. You'll find it on there. There's an attached podcast where we cover a monthly news roundup, nerdy breakdowns, intense breakdowns of loads of things. There's interviews on there as well. Neil Before Blog, I'm reviewing Star Trek Discovery, and that's the only reviews I'm writing at the moment. I should probably review other things. I was thinking about doing Doctor Who, but I think the scheduling is just too nightmarish. It's because of the, well, this might be boring for listeners, but I'm going to say it anyway. The idea that American viewers technically get it first, even though it's exactly the same time, but it's a more convenient time for you guys, whereas for us it's midnight. And so I'll wake up on a Saturday morning and all the American reviews will already be out because they got it like several hours ago while I was asleep. So yeah, I don't know if I'll bother. I'll just wait to record a podcast on it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I should review other stuff too. I should really do that. And personally, on Twitter, I can be found under Nemesis4909, which was not a Star Trek reference. It originally was a Resident Evil reference. So that's basically me.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say about Doctor Who. I'm about 3 doctors behind, so I have a lot of catching up to do.
Well, this will be a good jumping-on point, I think. Yeah. I think it's designed to be a refresh. And that's the thing about Doctor Who, is just jump in whenever and then go back later if you feel like it.
Yeah. I have completionist tendencies, so it'll bother me. So
yeah, I mean, you could still
completionists and chronology tendencies.
You could be current and then sort of slowly catch up as you go.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Cool. Well, if you want to connect with me, you can hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Mastodon at The Nerdy Blogger. You can read my words on my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my words on fangirlish.com, where I write about film and television, mostly Star Trek. Also got a couple of movie reviews coming up on there. Going to be covering Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse biopic, and Wildcat as well, which is a Flannery O'Connor biopic. Looking forward to both of those. So be on lookout for those, as well as some other sci-fi and sci-fi adjacent stuff. I'm also going to be covering Twisters and Alien Romulus for the site, so I'm really looking forward to both of those films. You can hear my words being read on the Sci-Fi 5 podcast, which is 5 minutes of science fiction history 5 days a week. The full archive of that is available at roddenberry.podcasts.com. Besides here on We Are Starfleet, you can hear me talking about Marvel on our Marvel podcast, Podcast 616, which is podcast-616, where I talk Marvel and all things Marvel adjacent MCU with my co-host Hugh McStay. You can also hear me on the Video Store podcast. You can check us out wherever you download your podcasts or at videostorepodcast.com. Myself and a gaggle of rotating hosts trade off each episode in a round-robin fashion, and we each give you movie recommendations based around a theme or an actor, director, a genre, whatever interests us. So we've had a lot of really interesting and diverse episodes, a lot of it sci-fi related, because we all like sci-fi and fantasy, but I did an episode about Lori Petty. I've done one about sleepover classics. I've got another one coming up about baseball. I've got some other ones, going to do a Marvel episode, going to do a Stephen King episode. So lots of stuff coming up that I'm really excited about. It's been a fun little adventure. So I think those are all the places in which you can connect with me. So if you want to connect with the show, please join us on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Blue Sky at Starfleet Pod. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of We Are Starfleet. But until then, let's fly.